Hi, my name is Michael Nadeau, and this is my POP3 and SMTP presentation for ISA 4220. This is a quick overview of what we're going to go through. We're going to go over POP3, we're going to have a technical discussion and then do the best practices, and then we'll transition to SMTP, also doing the technical discussion of best practices. So POP3, what is it? It is the Post Office Protocol. So this is a mail transfer protocol. It accesses your mail through a single device. So the cons about this, the server does delete the memory of the messages when the session ends. So the cons to this is you only can access it through one device. So if you wanted to have it on multiple devices such as an iPhone or your computer, you would have to choose one. It's usually the one that will make the session with the POP3 server first. The session will begin and then the mail is transferred. Once the mail is transferred, the server gives it goodbye, it does an update state, and then it deletes the messages from the server, so you can't really access it from, let's say you want to access it from your iPhone or any other device. You want to be able to get it because there's no memory stored on the server. The pros to this is that even in offline mode, as long as your device made connection with the server, you can view those messages in offline mode because all that information is saved on your machine. Also, another pro to this is the server itself will have more memory to store it. POP3, it communicates on TCP port 110 and also works on the application layer. Next, we will talk about the stages of the protocol. So, what happens when the server connects, or the client actually connects with the server? Well, the first one is a TCP connection is established. We discussed this in our last PowerPoint. This is basically it ensures that the messages are sent. It ensures that the other device is listening and a connection is set up. So after this, a greeting message is sent saying that the server is ready. If you've seen this slide, that's the example. So plus OK, it's a status. Then it's saying the POP3 server is ready. Then it goes into the authorization state. This just verifies that the device or the client has authorization into the server. It will authorize what user it is. Then the transaction state. This is where the server will list what messages the client has, and then the client takes those messages from the server. After this, the update state happens. This is where the messages are deleted from the server and then the session is closed. Alright, now we're going to talk about the format of POP3. So it uses the ASCII character set. It also uses single space separators, as you can see in the little picture to the right. The keywords, it's max characters 3 to 4. You see those. It's like user, pass, stat, UIDL. Those are keywords. And then you got the arguments. These are max characters of 40s. So the arguments are sent by the client. Then the responses are sent by the server. These can be a max of 512. Also, as you can see which one's a server and which one's a client on the right. So that's the format of POP3. So now let's talk about responses. This is the server's response to the client's request. So in the right side, you have an example of a request and a response. So there's two different response types that the server can give. It's a OK or ER, which stands for error. Basically, whatever request the client asks for, It gives okay if it can do it, and it gives an error if it can't, if the argument doesn't make sense. So the termination of the response. So every line of the response has a CRLF. That just means it clears the line and then moves on to the next line. And then the final line, it has a clear, so it moves to the next line and has a period. This can be seen on the right side, so let's give an example. So C is the client, S is the server. So the client says list, the server says okay, I can do that. I have two messages, there's 320 octets long. Server then says the first message is 120 octets long, and the second message is 200 octets long. And then it ends the response by clearing the line, going to the next line, and then having a period. So then the client sees that, and then the client asks, hey, this for number 2. So he wants to see number 2. The server says, okay, 2 is 200 octets long, ends the session, or ends the response. Then the client says list 3. But as you can tell at the beginning, it said it only had 2 messages. Well, the server sees this and sees that the argument is invalid and gives it an error and says there's no such message. There's only 2 messages in the mailbox. The exception to this, there's not really an argument at the beginning. There's a TCP connection, and the greeting doesn't really respond to an argument. It just gives a plus OK, telling the server or the client that it's okay and it's working, and the POP3 server is ready to receive arguments from the client. Alright, now we're going to go over the POP3 best practices. The first one we're going to talk about is the storage, and the best way you can manage this. First is you want to start a NTFS file system for security and reliability. Reliability being you can, instead if you lose memory or lose a file, you're not going to lose the whole partition. You're just going to lose that specific file, and then they also offer security. Now next is you want to have enough disk space that is allocated to the POP3 server memory. This is you're dealing with email, and like I said before, it doesn't keep the memory once the session is established and ended. But if the session is never started, then you're still going to keep that memory on the server until that session is started and ended. The next is your mail store. You don't want it in your in the directory that your operating system is, because it could take up the memory and your operating system starts slowing down. Same thing with bad mail. Just stored in a separate directory as the operating system. Next, you want to set a strong password to protect your system, and then the last one is you want to set up the latest version of SSL with POP3. It's called POP3S, and it's very important that you have the latest version and that you don't have the bugs and exploited bugs. So if you do want to secure POP3 server, you need to correctly configure and get rid of the exploits for the POP3 server software itself, your OpenSSL installation, the Stunnel, that's the SSL wrapper, and then also you have the underlying system kernel configuration. Alright, now we'll start talking about SMTP, mail transfer protocol. This is a simple mail transfer protocol. SMTP supports many of the popular services out there for mail transfer. Also, SMTP is used for sending mail, so don't get confused with POP3. POP3 is used for receiving mail. SMTP is specifically used for sending mail. Unless it's on SMTP servers, exchange mail in between each other, so they send and receive, but just in between the servers. So SMTP, how it works is it's sent from the client to these SMTP servers or server. So in the case of, let's say you have John at gmail.com and you want to send it to Sally at gmail.com, that would use one server. most likely. The one case that went in, Gmail probably has a ton of servers, but if it resonates on that one server, it's called a local host transfer. So it wouldn't have to be transferred over the internet or go through the DNS, like I'm going to explain next. So if it is, let's say, Cindy at gmail.com is sending to John at yahoo.com, those are two different email servers. So John, let's say John sends it to Sally. I think it changed names, but it's still the same. John goes to the SMTP server. The SMTP server will go to the DNS and look up the address of the yahoo.com of the server. It will send it to the server, but not only that, it'll also put the message in a mail queue in case the server does not get the message. Once the server gets the message, it deletes it from the mail queue. The SMTP server, yahoo.com, will put the message into a mail queue itself, and then deliver the message to a delivery agent, which will deliver it to the POP3 protocol, which will send it over port 110 to the destination. Also, that mail queue will be deleted for that message. SMTP uses port 25, and like was discussed before, SMTP uses the DNS to find the destination of an external SMTP server. Alright, now we talked about how SMTP works. We're going to be talking about the commands and reply codes of SMTP. SMTP command codes are generated by the user and not the server. There's 3 different arguments or different commands that the sender can use. They're called reverse path, forward path, and multipath, or mail path. The reverse path, that's the argument for mail command. And the mail command just signals the SMTP server that a session is about to start, and so it goes as it clears the buffer for the new session. So the next is the forward path. This is an argument of the recipient command. So the recipient command, it's used to identify the recipient of the mail that's being sent. There can be multiple recipients, so if you put 3 mail addresses, this command will run 3 separate times, and then the server will say if it's okay or not, depending on if there's a blacklist or anything like that. And then the mail data, this is arguments for the data command, which the data command is the actual message itself inside the body. Next, so this is what the sender sends, and each time the sender sends this, they're waiting for a reply code so it can send something else. So you got alright, now we're going to talk about the format of POP3. So it uses the ASCII character set. It also uses single space separators, as you can see in the little picture to the right. The keywords, it's max characters 3 to 4. You see those. It's like user, pass, stat, UIDL. Those are keywords. And then you got the arguments. These are max characters of 40s. So the arguments are sent by the client. Then the responses are sent by the server. These can be a max of 512. Also, as you can see which one's a server and which one's a client on the right. So that's the format of POP3.